Dream hijackings and astral attacks are common things. Happen all the time. Happen every night to everybody almost. It's just that people don't remember. They think it's a nightmare. Artificial intelligence hijackings happens all the time. Human consciousness is daily hijacked by astral parasites, AI, deceased humans, malevolent, fourth density groups, ET groups, extraterrestrial groups. And this is kind of normal. The insertions of avatars is quite normal. But a unique concept to certainly look at and discuss would be avatars and hijacking of dreams. And these things happen quite often. It's just that they're so flawlessly executed that human doesn't even detect anything. And I've had an incident that happened to me once, which was very serious, that it almost caused conflict between a few different reptilian races. And the story is that a while back, a few years back, I was at home sleeping, regular night of course, and I was deep in sleep, very tired, and in a dream state I was hanging out with a bunch of humans and dogs at some outdoor park, like a retreat or something, and out of nowhere, completely unexpectedly, I was just ripped out of that dream. I was just pulled out of that dream, almost like the Matrix effect, and I was inserted into a new dream, completely unexpectedly. And it was the strangest thing ever, but this new dream was a setting that I would describe as like a Las Vegas Strip hotel room, facing the strip, the clubs, the restaurants, the cars, the bars. So very, very active for the nightlife type of thing. And next to me, I looked down and I was with a buddy and I recognized him right away. His name is Aaron. He's a friend of mine here from Human Life. We partied all the time in the past, and we heard a knock on the door, multiple knocks on the door, the hotel room door. And as I looked through the peephole, there were a bunch of police officers, very dangerous looking, malevolent looking. They were very angry, very, very pissed off, and they were trying to get in. They had blue uniforms on, they had no hats on, they had guns, badges hanging around their necks, like a SWAT team, little mini SWAT team. And obviously I didn't let them in, but magically somehow they just walked through the door. Literally, they just walked through the wooden door. So that was a red flag number one. And the red flag number two that happened is I paid attention to the uniforms. Their uniforms were dirty. The badges didn't state clearly what police service they were at. The guns were not of the same model, not of the same type. And they were yelling at us and screaming at us to get to the ground, and they cuffed us and they arrested us for some bullshit crime that we didn't even do. And at that point, I realized there's something wrong going on here. And there definitely something was going on there. So there were 10 cops, 8 were male and 2 were female. And 2 of the females sat on the bed right away. It was a double bed room, and the males started interrogating my buddy, and they started kind of giving him a hard time and poking him and pushing him around and put him in this corner, and he was petrified. He was scared. And I've never seen Aaron that way. He's a pretty ballsy guy, and yeah, he's very, very scared. He started to urinate himself. And then the cops started taking photos of themselves next to him, urinate himself. And then they did one step up. They made him take off his clothes and get naked and to mock him that way and really embarrass him. And they did. And then they started taking photos from what it appeared to be a photo camera in their hand. And unfortunately, he agreed to do all these things. He agreed to kind of break, and they laughed at him and they made fun of him. And I became very territorial, extremely territorial, very overprotective. Something just switched in my head. I fucking snapped, and I looked at the 10 and I realized that the first 2 I'm gonna take out are the 2 on the bed. When I came across towards the bed to the 2 female officers, they were very flirty. They tried to trick me, and they became very, very flirty. They even offered sex as a sexual encounter, and which I refused. And at that moment, I remember becoming so angry that rage took over, and I felt them staring at me in a way where they were kind of shocked what they were seeing. I didn't realize what they were seeing, which I'll explain. So telepathically, I was able to connect to my higher fractal consciousness, 6th density layer and 5th density layer. And at the same time, I called the Theta Tauri white reptilian race, which at that time I was connected to, and I'm still connected to today, which are the closest counterparts that I have as far as all the reptilians are concerned, and who I channel currently in my life. And I proudly speak about the Theta Tauri race. And when I connected to them quickly, this all happened from a human perspective under 1 second, even quicker than that. And they immediately responded, and they offered me almost an energetic boost of their energy, a small fractal of their own consciousness. And then I connected to my 5th density layer of my higher fractal consciousness, or AKA soul, higher self. And with this combination, they empowered me even more. So once I received the Theta Tauri mental warfare, with that activation of the actual mental energy of this mental warfare, I saw that the entire room, this party Las Vegas room, was not really a hotel room. It had nothing to do with Las Vegas or Nevada or any of the states. This was a blank, black, dark room, no windows, no furniture, nothing. No lights, no nightclubs outside the window, nothing, just an empty black space. Dark with nothing in it but these entities standing there. And the whole police officer thing, they were not cops. They were not police. This room was not a hotel room. This was an insert. This was an avatar insert, so a fake avatar. And that those cops were definitely not cops. They were shapeshifters. They were malevolent entities, shapeshifters, who wanted to take a genetic extraction from me and interrogate me on my interstellar connections and so forth. And a buddy of mine, Aaron, he wasn't even real. There was no Aaron there. It was a projection. So they took a memory of me and Aaron many years ago in human life partying, and they projected that to fool me. And not only was he not real, but the entire setting was not near. And at that moment when I absorbed enough and integrated enough of Theta Tauri, fifth density energy, I started to shape shift into a reptilian, into a white reptilian. And their white is my shirt, they're pure white. And the entities, the parasites, they became really scared. They were looking at each other. They never expected that I was able to do that. They didn't understand how human, a simple primitive third density human, is able to even do that. And I loved every minute of it. And ultimately I was facing 10 full dark brown skin, very malevolent adult reptilians. They did not have very long tails. And I've never seen this particular race before, but what I realized is they were 7 foot tall, they were 200, 250 pounds, so they were not massive size, but they certainly came for very wrong reasons. They didn't come to play nice or to have a Starbucks. So in obvious self-defense, just like everyone else would in the astral, I immediately killed the two of them with my hands, and then I came to the group by the window. It was this window area that appeared to be a hotel room, but it was actually just an empty space. So when I approached them, the group kind of shuffled around. So with my hands, or AKA claws, I was able to kill all of them except one. And the one that escaped, he was kind of a leader. He was the tallest, he was the biggest, and real leader fights with his soldiers, but this parasite, this coward didn't, so he tried to escape. And I remember ultimately I held him by his neck. Even though I held him, it was my intent to do that, it was actually a Theta Tauri hand projected state that held him. And Theta Tauris are 400-pound reptilians. This parasite reptilian was 200 pounds. So they tried to, prior to that, connect to my astral 5th and 6th density layer, so higher self, so they couldn't do it. They were rejected. But going behind the back of my soul, or the higher self, they created an avatar matrix in the last layer, so 3rd layer or dream state. And then they pulled my consciousness into them using technology, their own technology. So artificial technology, hence the whole magnetic pull from the first dream into the second dream. And this ultimately took me and my entire consciousness and brought me into their own reality of this artificial fake avatar matrix construct. And because it was a very peaceful at first in that hotel room with Aaron, having a drink with no hostility, nothing triggered. No red flags were triggered. No security checkpoints were triggered. It felt safe. So my higher self, my AKA 4th density, 5th density, they were not aware that there is an attack about to take place. So the higher fractal consciousness wasn't aware of these parasites being present, nor were they aware of the matrix avatar being inserted or any of this advanced technology to bypass the higher self to even recognize an attack, which is fine. It's a lesson learned for me and my higher self, and these kind of mistakes won't happen again. But these parasites, they certainly did not expect the full integration of Theta Tauri reptilian energy, that was even possible with a human, that was even allowed by a race, that was allowed in my own astral body, which ultimately manifested a physical reptilian avatar in a projected state. So that was way too strong, way too intense, way too powerful, and quite frankly, way too violent for this parasitic race, this reptilian race. They were not high in the density layer, and they were not that tough. I mean, they were just intimidators, but they weren't really tough. They came the following night, the next night, dream state in my human life. It was the same type of dream interference. What ended up happening was above my bed, I noticed with my third eye, when I opened up my third eye and my physical eyes were closed, I noticed a small portal being opened up, maybe 3 foot by 3 foot, a circular portal. And they try to kind of hijack the whole bedroom thing. They try to pull me up magnetically again, but I learned my lesson the night before, so I didn't. And I went and complained to the Theta Tauri race, to the council itself. I actually spoke to the council and said, this is bullshit. This is not fair. What's going on over here? I mean, I don't have the ability to pay them back. This is not a fair fight. There's 10 of them. So what can be done? And let's do something going forward so that these things don't happen again. And the Theta Tauri responded very effectively. The English translation of this malevolent group, it's 3 reptilian races. An English translation is darkness between day. And they're known here on Earth because they work with Earth-based reptilians. They're known by contactees, they're known by experiencers and some channelers. But I cannot disclose the exact 3 races, even though I know them, I can't disclose them publicly. The Theta Tauri reptilians and their council, their prestigious council of elders, also informed me that the 3 races, these hijacking races, have contacted them directly and were pissed off the fact that Theta stood up for me. So it was like this whole drama type of scenario, which from a human perspective, it appeared to be drama, but actually wasn't. Reptilians are quite ceremonial, and all permissions, all conflicts, all wars, it all goes through layers and permissions and councils. And yeah, the Thetas pretty much heard what these 3 races had to say, because the whole stop talking to humans, it isn't going to work against one of the most dominant, I would say, an extraordinarily dangerous, but also well-respected and honorable and pride race such as Theta Tauri. That's not going to play with them. They don't take ultimatums. No one has a problem with these guys just for the fun of it. I mean, that's a big risk to take. And they didn't care to even explain to these 3 parasitic races what the reasons are or why they wish to work with me, why not. They just pretty much told them, say, look, beat it. There's nothing you can do to interfere a friendship between us and a human, or a human and us, just like you cannot prevent that human from connecting to other races that are non-reptilian races. Humans have every right to connect to extraterrestrials, and extraterrestrials have every right to connect to humans. And Thetas also explain that they have no business on Earth. They're not involved with any governments. No wars, no governments, no secret space programs, nothing. All they desire is to maintain and create friendships, very, very few, handful friendships with certain humans. And that's it, and nothing's gonna interrupt that. And these 3 races were ordered to immediately stay down and back away from ever interfering again. And one of the 3 races, this was carefully explained to me, there were 2 beings on the council by one of the races. So one of the 3 races. They're trying to be kind of the tough guy, and they said, well, no, we don't agree with that, and humans should not be in contact with any extraterrestrials, blah, 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 the whole micromanager, narcissistic type of views. And the Thetas pretty much just said in a very ruthless way. They told them, say, look, if these words by our council are not respected, we will declare a war on you. I never understood that these guys would intervene, and the entire council of elders would interfere and truly show their brotherhood, their desire to protect one of their own. And even though I'm not a Theta, I'm just a human, but I've earned their trust, and they meant their words. They always said to me, our trust to us is everything. And if you have trust, you have integrity. If you have integrity, you have loyalty. If you have loyalty, you have honor, you have bravery. You take prideful actions. And this is why we've always gravitated towards one another, and reptilians are this way. This is why reptilians stick together. And most humans that are reptilian contactees or reptilian channelers, they stick together because we recognize a lot of competencies and characteristics and traits within each other. And reptilians stand for power, commanding, actions. These are serious races. These are beyond dominant and well-respected races. And they take their friendships extremely seriously. And this is just one example of how my own avatar was completely destroyed thanks to a reptilian race. So a proven story, reptilians work with humans if the human deserves it, if the human is brave enough, if the human shows respect. Prideful actions deserve respect, and vice versa. So I proudly call these guys galactic brothers. They're great friends, and I channel them proudly. And on Earth, Theta Tauri, white reptilian race, will always be represented in the most honorable and truthful and respected way by me.